Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Moneyball, starring Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Robin Wright, and Chris Pratt, directed by Bennett Miller. Welcome back, sir, after Foxcatcher. Now, I have seen this movie before, and did I like it then? Well, it's going to be the same as, well, let's talk about it. Oakland A's baseball general manager Billy Beane, played by Brad Pitt, is depressed after suffering a big loss on October 15, 2001, after an elimination game against the New York Yankees. While hearing the game on a tape recorder, as the team loses three of its best players, Jason Giambi, Johnny Damon, and Jason Isringhausen. Forgive me if I said that wrong. As Billy is upset about it, and Billy needs more money for the best players to his boss, and he can't get any best players out there, as we get a meeting with Billy and some members of the National Baseball League. While Billy is talking about the problem they're going through, as he had experience with the game, and the writing in this is fantastic. While I like following Billy throughout the movie, we go back to Billy back in 1979. He hits very hard as a ball player and gets recruited to professional baseball while he goes to Cleveland. And as we get back to 2001, meets with their general manager of the Cleveland Indians, named Mark Shapiro, to get replacements for Billy's team, but doesn't go get any of his replacements. Well, after the meeting, Billy goes to the desk of Peter Brand, played by Jonah Hill, and asks him why Mark listened to him, and asks what happened in the meeting, and asks him in the parking lot what he wants, as Peter tells Billy, to buy wins. And this is Jonah Hill's first drama other than Cyrus, which I didn't care for that film. An Oscar nominated performance, as he's very good in this movie, and the performances are tremendous in this movie. We go back to Billy back in 1979 as he gets recruited to go to professional baseball, as this movie is well directed by Bennett Miller, whom I reviewed one of his films recently, Foxcatcher. And we go back to 2001, where Billy buys Peter from Cleveland and gets him to Oakland as he gets set up, and the score was really good, as Peter gets Billy 51 players to hire and get them on their team, and shows them what they can do, and explains how much they need to win baseball games, and needs players like Chad Bradford, who has a funny throw in a strange way, and the cinematography is well shot. Billy and Peter bump into Art Howe, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, before going into a meeting with the same people as the first meeting we see earlier in the film, while Art talks with Billy about putting the team together, as he promotes Peter as the assistant general manager at the Oakland A's. And Billy walks into the meeting with the other team members as he recreates a new team, as they question if Peter needs to be in the meeting. And Billy wants David Justice on his team, as well as Scott Hatteberg, played by Chris Pratt, before he ever got overcast from Guardians of the Galaxy to Mario Brothers to even Garfield. And the board members are not happy with Billy about it, and they argue with Billy about his choice, as Billy picks a third guy whom I forgot his name, while they don't know how to play professional baseball. As we move on to Billy going to Scott's house and talk with him about playing first base along with Ron Washington, and give him a contract to play with the Oakland A's. And I like how Chris Pratt plays the character, as he does a good job with the performance. Billy goes to the house of his ex-wife Sharon, played by Robin Wright, as she's married to Alan, while Billy picks up his daughter Casey as they go to a shop where they play the guitar, and she makes up a song in which we'll hear at the last minute of the movie. And we hear a little bit of it at the shop, and we go back to 1984 to 1985, and Billy plays professional baseball for the New York Mets and gets a strikeout quite a bit of times, as Billy talks with Grady Fusen, as he threatens Billy on how he's going to get fired and work at a Dick's Sporting Goods store, while Art witnesses the conversation. And the screenplay is very well written. We move on to spring training for the year of 2002 as Chad Bradford is the third person Billy hires on the team, and we see Jeremy Giambi, excuse me, as is also hired as part of the team. And they didn't look as professional as other baseball players in spring training are, but Scott does pretty good. And we move on to opening day on April 1st, 2002, which made me think of April Fool's Day, I'm not going to lie, which is a holiday that makes me laugh in general. While the news people interview the new players, and Chad is thankful to be on the team, and the game starts where Billy goes inside and works out because he doesn't watch the games, excuse me, as Peter texts him what happened in the outfield and says something about Carlos Pena doing something, while Billy, after the game, has a conversation with Art about how they lost the game. And the shots are well shot, in my opinion, and it tells a good story, a good baseball story from the general manager's point of view. Billy and Peter practices talking with the players about when they get traded off, as Peter travels with the players, while David Justice complains about soda being $1 in the clubhouse, as does the other players, while Casey visits Billy in Oakland for the weekend while the A's are losing big time, as the news are trying to get rid of Billy, while he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and talks with the CEO of the Oakland A's, Steve, as even Casey, aka his own daughter, believes his father is getting fired from baseball based on what the internet says. And I like the relationship between Billy and Casey, while Peter hears something about Carlos and throws his desk and talks with Art about throwing Carlos in the pit, as this is tremendously told as far as biopics are concerned about a general manager working for baseball. After they lose the game, Billy hears one of the guys celebrating and asks, "What are you having fun for?" as losing doesn't sound fun, and tells them what it sounds like, and the editing feels tightly put together, while Billy goes on an airplane back home as he drives. Oh no, he takes Casey to an airplane back home as he drives and pulls over out of the blue and thinks he wants to trade some players for better ball players, and chats with one general manager to a team after another, while Peter is in the room and doesn't know what Billy is doing, and Billy is prepared to lose his job by trading over some baseball players and doesn't want his players to pay for soda anymore. And Peter talks with Carlos about how he was traded to the Detroit Tigers, and he feels disrespected, like how anyone would feel in general. And they talk with Art about starting Carlos at first, while they trade Jeremy Giambi for a different player, and the dialogue is acted very well. Billy puts Scott on first base and is concerned that he's going to get hit by the ball, while Billy talks with one of the players and they prepare for the game as they're starting to win 7 games in a row. And we get to a trade deadline day, while Billy speaks with Mark and gets Anderson, as this is turning from a good movie to a very good movie. Billy and Peter discuss who gets who by that very day and pays for new players, and the sound effects are great while in the baseball games, and gives another ball player some crap news while he has 26 guys playing the game, and they win so many games in a row, like 20 to be exact, as they got back to the elimination game as September 4th, 2002 comes in. And Sharon calls Billy, telling him he did good and gave him some good luck, while Casey begs him to turn around, while he can't, until Billy pulls off a stunt and to turn around. And I'm actually thinking, I'm having a good old ball game of a time with this movie. Peter sees Billy watching a bit of the game while his nightmare comes to life, as he's watching and can't see the painful game they're having, and goes into the locker room and hears the A's hit a home run, as it was a miracle for Billy to hear it while in the locker room, as he hears the TV as they won the game before they lost the score of 11-11, with the A's scoring up to 12, as it was a close game until the miracle happened on their first home run of the season, with a home run all thanks to Scott. They win 20 games in a row, and I really liked the miracle moment of the film, as it was intense for sure. Billy chats with Peter about the 20 wins in a row and how the wins won't matter to him in the next 20 years, as he wants it to mean something, and go to the elimination game in April 2002, as it's the ninth inning, and unfortunately he loses the game, which does feel depressing after 20 in a row winning games. And Billy gets a phone call from Henry, aka the CEO of the Boston Red Sox, and asks him to come to Boston, as Henry wants Billy to be their next general manager of the Boston Red Sox for a $12.5 million salary. And I'm thinking, holy crap, that's a ton of money, big time, which is the highest amount of any general manager in the history of sports. And Billy gets back to Oakland and talks with Peter about his visit to Boston, as he's told him Henry's offer and he doesn't want it after losing 2 elimination games in a row. And Peter shows Billy footage from a game where people were laughing at the player sliding to the base as he gets up, and the player realizes why, and Billy lies on the ground in the field, and nobody around, and he gets on the way home from the stadium, and we hear Casey singing the song she sang to him earlier in the shop with the guitar with the full length. And during the biopic, what happens to the characters? Billy turned down Henry's offer and wants to stay with the A's, as he's still waiting to win a final game when it matters. And the climax was well done, as this is a very good movie. And how good was it? Let's get to the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.3 out of 10. The acting is tremendous from Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill in his first dramatic role, as he was tremendous in this movie, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and everybody else in the cast, as this is a great movie to learn about baseball in general. Despite I was never a fan of the game in general, and the cinematography is well shot, as this movie is well made as it works. I liked following the story of Billy being from a baseball player to a general manager of the Oakland A's team, and the screenplay is very well written, as it tells a good baseball story from the general manager's point of view. And this is tremendously told as far as biopics are concerned about a general manager working for baseball. The editing is tightly put together, as this was a good movie at first, but it turned into a very good movie, as the sound is great when they're in the baseball games. And I credit director Bennett Miller on telling a true baseball story, as he pulls this off like he did with Foxcatcher with wrestling, as this is a solid recommendation, and this is probably the best baseball movie with males I've seen, while A League of Their Own is about female baseball, and it's a good old ball game of a time, as it works for sports movies in my opinion. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this review, and until then, take me out to the ball game.